Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to bring you this special bulletin. Ubisoft just can't seem to be catching a break as of late, whether it's the lackluster sales of Star Wars Outlaws, the plummeting stock prices, all the way down to their stock being downgraded and people wanting them to go private, investors wanting them to go private with their stock. Things just keep getting worse and worse and worse. And well, with Assassin's Creed Shadows on the horizon, well, I don't think it's going to be getting any better. This article from Bounding Into Comics, Spencer writes, Assassin's Creed Shadows art director responds to criticisms regarding game's depiction of Japan. Quote, "We've paid a lot of attention to stay as respectful as possible to Japanese culture," like putting in Chinese architecture and, using arts and assets from reenactment groups and not telling them and not giving them credit? Or is it the mixture of hip-hop tunes, hip-hop music, with the Japanese soundtrack in your game? Oh, but that's their reason. Creative choices are made on our side, my goodness. In his response to numerous complaints that have been leveled toward the game handling Japanese culture, Assassin's Creed Shadows art director Thierry Dansiro, we'll go with that, has attempted to assure critics that he and his fellow devs are attempting to stay as respectful as possible to Japanese culture. How much damage control is going to be needed to save this game, if any? You think it'll help? I have my doubts. From its incorrect application of Chinese architecture and modeling Japanese buildings, use of modern-day reenactment groups. Oh, I just said that. Modern-day reenactment groups, custom banner for historical military unit, and, without the group's permission, no less, and depiction of historical Yasuke as a full-blown samurai. That's probably the last thing. That right there, Yasuke in this game, will more than likely be the least of this game's problems when all is said and done, especially if Star Wars Outlaws has anything to say about it. If that's going to be an example of what this Assassin's Creed game is going to be, Yasuke is going to be the least of its problems. Assassin's Creed Shadows has constantly, over and over, stumbled in attempting to digitally recreate the land of the rising sun as it appeared during its years under the control of the famous Oda Nobunaga. And unsurprisingly, this haphazard treatment of Japan's history and culture has led to both the game, its devs... Wait. Hold on a second. Okay, see, this isn't me messing up. This is... Okay. Culture has led to both the game, its devs team facing massive... Both the game is dev... and its dev team facing massive criticism. You missed a couple of words in there, Spencer. Facing criticism over their creative intentions from not just Western players, but also Japanese citizens and politicians. But, of course, if you listen to the Twitter mafia online, they'll tell you that, oh, it's just a bunch of Western white guys using Google Translate on the Japanese complaints. It's not actual Japanese players. Japanese players are excited for this nonsense. Eventually, the discourse around Shadow's depiction of Japan grew so loud that the game's dev team, under the oversight of the parent company, eventually chose to offer a half apology, half request to trust, specifically to Eastern critics. They said, please play our game. Please, we beg you. We've gone over that ad nauseum. First and foremost, designed to be an entertaining video game that tells a compelling historical fiction set in feudal Japan. They've gone from saying, we're trying to be historically accurate, to it's just a video game, to we're going to pay as much respect as we can, to make up your mind, guys. After about a month of radio silence on the topic, the aforementioned Dansero has offered a more personal, on-the-ground take of the situation. Pressed for his thoughts on the criticism of the game's creative liberties by Eurogamer editor-in-chief Tom Phillips during the recent... That's a long sentence. Dansero bluntly affirmed, of course we're taking creative choices, which means we're going to do whatever we want to, regardless of how much it respects or disrespects the source material. That's kind of something I paraphrase. It's a video game in the end, so we don't have to do. If they'd have said that straight from the beginning, I think people would have given them a little bit more leniency, but it's not what was reported in the beginning. They talked about historical accuracy. They talked about the authenticity of Yasuke as a samurai. It's been flip-flopping over and over again since this game was announced. And yet now, again, we hear creative choices. It's a video game in the end, so we want to make the best experience as possible for players. Then stop advertising it as being authentic. You should have stuck with the video game excuse straight off from the beginning. We decided to pick Yasuke because the possibility of him being an interesting character in that timeline, and we've taken creative liberties regardless of whatever historical documents there have been in the past. If they'd have gone with that statement, you would not have had this massive uproar. Perhaps people still would have complained. Well, actually, more than likely, people still would have had a problem of using a black man in feudal Japan as the samurai instead of using, I don't know, a Japanese man in feudal Japan. Right? That still would have been the problem. But the argument of having Yasuke as the samurai, he's actually a samurai. He was really a samurai. No, he wasn't. Yes, he was. That argument may not have been on the table if you would have just come out and said, we're taking creative liberties with the character of Yasuke, and left it at that. But marketing team's got to market. We've worked with a lot of experts who don't know the difference between Japanese and Chinese architecture to just understand, well, the time period. We did a lot of our own work, so we're making sure we depict this world in a respectful way. Chinese architecture in Japan, while fulfilling the gameplay needs and making it entertaining. Okay. We've worked with Osaka and Tokyo studios who've acted as consultants. One of their art directors is involved in doing research in the field. So it's not Ubisoft's fault. It's the studios that they were using to consult for art direction. It's not our fault. It's their fault. We went there to Japan. We went there. We did a field trip as well. And we have Japanese experts living in Japan. We've heard this before. We use them a lot to look at our assets. They play the game and provide feedback. Of course they are. Turning to address the above statements from Ubisoft, Dansero then asserted, oh, wait, no. That was the statement. Is that what Dansero said? Because I've read this before. I've read that statement before in another video. I guess Spencer is bringing it up to show that right here he addresses the above statement. Dansero then asserted there was a letter published by Ubisoft apologizing to that group of people in Japan. Are we referencing a whole nother part of the... Okay. But something they need to know is we are working with experts, world-renowned experts. You mean the white guy that lied about... Anyway, that's a whole different thing. Believe what you want to believe. Do your own research. And if we have in any way offended people, we are sorry, but this is not the goal. Okay. That's never the goal. We paid a lot of attention to stay as respectful as possible to Japanese culture, but creative choices were made on our side. Of course they are. There always are. Met with one final inquiry into the effect the social media backlash to Shadows has had on its dev team. The director clarified, it's a personal question. It's up to everyone to see. Okay. Do you read all the stuff that's coming out? Oh, we do. I'm sure they do as well. Are you spending a lot of time on social media reading the comments? Are you staying focused? I know some people who get affected. Social media platforms are a free space where people can do what they want. At the same time, we're very focused on shipping this title on this last mile, polishing the quality as much as possible, he concluded. We know we have a great game on our hands. I do wonder how many people are going to believe you and put their hard-earned $70, upwards of $120. Oh, goodness gracious me. $120 for early access for a single-player game. Anyway, we're proud of that and should stay proud of this game we've made. I believe, weren't they saying the same thing about Star Wars Outlaws? And that was a nonsensical, buggy mess no matter how you try to paint it at all. I've seen videos, multiple videos, clips of people playing it on their systems, on their PlayStations, and just, wow. An absolute buggy mess. Do you think Assassin's Creed Shadow is going to run the same route of underperformance, of massive underperformance, as Star Wars Outlaws is? Or is it going to just sell blockbusters, set records across the board for Ubisoft, and pull their failing stock prices out of the gutter? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Leave a like, leave a dislike, do all those nifty little things us YouTubers beg you to do. And I hope to see you on the next one. Bye-bye.